Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mr. Bench's Book Reviews. What's in the box today? It is... a beautiful book from Bloomsbury Paperbacks known as Bill, that's Bill, in a China shop. A story by Katie McAllaster Weaver with pictures by Tim Raglin. And there is one of them, I assume. Well, let's get into it. His name's Bill. He seems to be a bull. So he's also a bull in a china shop, as the expression more commonly goes. Illustrated by Tim Raglin, yes, here we go. Fur hats. He's in front of a hat shop. He's not wearing a fur hat, though. He's wearing more of a traditional bowler. He's very smartly dressed. Tails, or whatever we call that. Morning suit, something like that. Anyway, once there was a bull named Bill, who felt a certain thrilling chill. Rhymes, this one, that's nice. Each time he saw a china shop. I see the china shops. On the next page, you've seen it. It says, fine china. The teacups made his heart flip-flop. He couldn't help but cry and pout, for each store's sign read, Bulls keep out. Oh dear, his people's reputation precedes him. And there he is, crying and pouting. Bulls keep out, it does say that on the sign. Oh. So he's very smart, he's dressed like a gentleman, and that's why he likes fine teacups. But he's not allowed in the shop. But then one day he saw a store without a sign upon its door. So carefully he crept inside. It actually does have a sign that says, please come in. So carefully he crept inside, and there upon a shelf he spied a cup that made him want to shout. A cup he could not live without. It's not evident from the picture which cup that is, but he's grinning. There are a few cups, plates, a couple of teapots, vases. Lots of very nice china things. Well, this is nice. So he's going to buy himself a cup. Inching closer, almost to it. One more step. He seems to be walking around very carefully. There are a couple of animal things made of china who are looking a bit worried, a bit like Bill. That's interesting. I don't know if their facial expressions will change as the story progresses. Inching closer, almost to it. One more step, but then he blew it. Oh dear. His flailing tail flicked and whacked a pile of platters neatly stacked. They leaned and lurched, then nearly tipped. Whew. Back to normal. Nothing chipped. Yeah, that's good. Here are the platters leaning and lurching. See that? He's quite wide-mouthed there. He's really rather worried that he's going to knock over those platters. Bulls are not allowed in here, the clerk said with a snarly sneer. So he didn't have the sign on the door, but he just has a general rule. Oh, he's getting real... There's a statue that I think its eyes are now looking at what's going on. I could check the previous. Yeah, they weren't doing that before, so they are changing the facial expressions of the inanimate objects. Bulls are not allowed in here, the clerk said with a snarly sneer. Aghast at what he nearly did. I think it should be aghast at what he'd nearly done normally, but anyway. Bill backed up, then tripped and slid into a vase, which broke in two. Which wasn't what he meant to do. Yeah, I think it should be aghast at what he'd nearly done. But then it wouldn't have rhymed. Then you'd have to say Bill backed up, then tripped and slun, which wouldn't make any sense at all. Poetic license, I believe that's known as. So he has smashed a vase after all. But I guess they're saying that he wouldn't have smashed it if he hadn't been snarled at sneered at so snarlily by the clerk. So it's his fault, really. If it weren't for prejudice, he would not have smashed the vase. That'd be his defense, anyway. Frightened by the jarring sound of china crashing to the ground, he stumbled towards some figurines and smashed them into smithereens. Oh dear. Smithereens, nice word. Bulls are not allowed in here, the clerk repeated with a sneer. Seems to be his standard way of talking. Well, even his hat's fallen off there, though that won't smash because it probably isn't made of china. But it has exposed his rather fine quiff. Oh, the little doggy's even falling down. It won't enjoy that. It'll be smashed into smithereens as well. So he's not, I mean, I think in the expression bull in a china shop, you expect the bull to be raging around, fuming with anger. Whereas here he's just bumbling around clumsily. Which is quite an amusing take, really. Like a twist. Looking like he just might cry. Well, there is quite a large tear emerging from one of his ducts, so he's crying. Bill let out a heavy sigh, pointing to the cup he wanted. Or could not live without. I guess that's a need. Consistent. He grovelled, begged, and even pleaded, full of... I don't know if that's a standard, like if that's getting more and more intense, I would have put begged at the end normally. Like I've seen it on TV shows. People say please, which is pleading. I think in The Simpsons or something, and then they say, are you going to make me beg? As though it's like if you're trying to exercise the power you have over someone, you force them to say that they beg because it's in some way them subjugating themselves to you. So I don't think grovelled, begged, and even pleaded is actually standard like that. But it obviously rhymes with needed again. Anyway, so that's what Bill's doing. He's grovelled, begged, and even pleaded, full of fidgets and frustration. It's a lovely bit of alliteration, which is in the next line. It says, giddy with anticipation. Giddy, oh dear. If he's giddy, he might start stumbling around again. If he's fidgety. Bill began to stomp and shake, feeling like his heart would break. Oh dear, and his stomping seems to be causing all matter of china to fall from the shelves. Sugars, creamers, pots galore exploded once they hit the floor. Once is a bit weird there. As they hit the floor. Because it doesn't take long for a creamer to fall off a shelf. Like once, I would normally expect a bit of a time delay. Or at least a slightly longer process. Galore is a lovely word. Pots galore. And there are some very nice vocabulary things in here. I also quite like the way they have very large, nice pictures. I'm not even showing them, but they're nicely drawn. And like here, there's a vase falling upside down, and it's kind of got a face on it, and its mouth is wide open because it's going as it falls. Although it was doing that when it was just standing on the table as well. So it's possible I'm reading slightly too much into some of these details. I'm not going to go around. Sugars. What is a sugar? I guess I mean sugar bowls, or are they referred to as sugars? I don't know really. I have a cow creamer at home. But I have what I would call a sugar pot rather than a sugar bowl. Just a sugar. Oh, there's some new characters. Then three ladies tottered in. They're wearing these big dresses that might be called crinolines, the ones you have with big cages around them. Or they look like that anyway. They're either extremely starched or they have some sort of supporting cage. Then three ladies tottered in, so you can imagine them tottering. Each one frowned from wig to chin. I don't know if that means they're wearing wigs, or if that's just a colloquial use of wig to mean hair. Quite an interesting way of saying it. Saying like the whole face is frowning, not just a little frown. From wig to chin. They're a bit, should put on an accent for that. Oh, look at this untidiness. Mr. Bull, did you cause this? Not everything's quite fallen off the shelves, actually, but most things. Bill nodded sadly up and down as giant tears plopped to the ground. Clarky's on the floor as well. He's still sneering and snarling. Bill looks pretty dejected. Oh, his tears aren't going to cause even more damage because they're so giant. Going to flood the place. You poor sweet dear, the ladies gushed. Oh, showing sympathy. For they could see that Bill was crushed. Again the clerk said with a sneer, Bulls do not belong in here. I'm sorry for this mess today. This awful beast won't go away. Well, that's good. He's apologising. I mean, he's trying to make out it's not his fault. I mean, he could be saying, I'm sorry for this mess today. I had the wrong sign in the window. It said, please come in unless you're a bull. One of the ladies has a little bird on her hat. I don't know if that's a fascinator or an actual bird. The ladies patted poor Bill's head, snarling at the clerk instead. Oh. To the clerk, they said, how rude. And to Bill they turned and cooed. Normally associate that with doves or pigeons, but these ladies are cooing. And the clerk is standing up straight as he's admonished. I quite like the way he's clenching his fists there. He's not used to being the person in trouble. They bought his cup. Then to Bill they turned and cooed. Okay, so they bought his cup, so that's Bill's cup. And also paid for all the mess that Bill had made. I was giving the clerk a wad of cash, well, he'll be happy. Then packed the cup in tissue wrap and tied it with a sturdy strap, presumably provided by the clerk. Beaming, Bill walked through the door. There's a comma there. It's not Beaming Bill. He's not changed his name. Beaming, Bill walked through the door and thanked his friends outside the store. We may have had a door store rhyme earlier in the piece. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I think that was very early on. That's okay, you could argue that's really nice framing. So he just gave the clerk a wad of cash to pay for everything. When Bill the Bull got home that day, he put his teacup on display. Next he wrote his friends a letter. Thanks to you, I feel much better. I hope you three will come to tea so I can thank you properly. And presumably, we put his teacup on display. I don't know. You could actually look at the very teacup and see if it's one of the ones you uses. When they come to tea, are they coming to tea? Yeah. Then one day at 4:30, Bill heard knocking at his door. His three friends all tottered in, each one grinned from wig to chin. So it's nice, previously it frowned from wig to chin, and now they're grinning. But they're still tottering, that's just how they get about. At least when they're entering rooms or buildings. Here's to tea and bite-sized cakes. Right, now they drink the tea, but those aren't out of his new cup. He's got that nice and safe on the shelf. Here's to hoping nothing breaks. Well, they're drinking. Okay. Well, what do we think of that then? I mean, some of the vocabulary was quite nice. Words like galore and the fidgeting smithereens. Obviously, I did pick out a few things where they were a little loose on some of the grammar potentially, or like the pleading sounding as though it's a more extreme form of asking than begging, which I don't think is standard, but overall I thought that was a nice story. I mean, it's very much big wad of cash solves everything, which is maybe not the moral you want to tell children. Don't worry about bumbling around, smashing things up. I mean, it's your Deus Ex Machina, isn't it? I believe is the expression. But this in the form of three ladies. I don't know if three ladies dressed in dark clothing is a common literary trope, like symbolic. You have the witches in Macbeth. Can't really read much into them. I mean, these people weren't prophesying anything; they were just showing up and saving the day. Yeah, and as I say, I think normally the bull in a china shop would be angry, whereas this guy is just nervous, which is kind of nice. So breaking down stereotypes there of bulls being big angry people, but not so much of bulls being capable of not smashing up china shops. Quite good. Snarly sneer, that's another alliteration. So they were clearly going for a few alliterations. Drawing style, Tim Raglin, perfectly fine. A few little nice details. And overall, a reasonable story. I sometimes wonder with things like this, Bill in a china shop, if the idea is just they think bull in a china shop, Bill in a china shop, they just take some phrase and slightly change it and think, what might that be? But it doesn't really matter. They've made a reasonable story out of it. Well done, Katie and Tim. And well done you for watching. And I shall see you next time for another of Mr. Bench's book reviews. Bye.